Already sniffed.
Been the one for so long.
Let's call it to order. You want roll call?
Yes, sure. Kim O'Connell,
Here.
Sharon Kelly,
Here.
Tracy LeBlanc. Here. Doug Rowdy,
Here.
Pam Garvey,
Here.
and Justin Wood. That's so 5 out of 6.
Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda. I'll second it.
First and a second. Anybody see anything we have to change? If not, we'll keep it going. Okay, all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda. Approval of the minutes that were in the package from our July 3rd
Make a motion.
motion from Tracy to approve
I'll second.
and Sam. Anybody see anything in there we have to change? If not, all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There we go. Public comment. Do we have any public comment today? Or is everybody for the, oh, you, okay,
There's a couple public comments, Chair.
okay.
You got-
Well, first, just state your name and
Okay.
where you're from and away we go.
My name's Mary Sart, and I am a New Brighton, Minnesota resident. Good morning. I'm here on behalf of myself and my husband, Jim Sarch. We have owned a cabin on Balsam Lake for over 20 years. We love this town and the memories that this lake has brought to our family. Last fall, we decided to contact Nelson Construction to start the process of adding on to our cabin, with the plan being that we will eventually retire there. We contacted Chris Nelson because we had seen his work numerous times over the years that we have been here. We would not think of hiring someone who is not local because we know how important it is to support Balsam Lake. We knew that Chris would be a great fit. During the initial discussions, Chris informed us of the location that the new addition would be in relation to our existing house. He had used a setback average formula that he has used for many years that he has been building homes. We continued on and had the project sent out for bidding, and we're ready for permits. A few weeks later, we learned from Chris that the new zoning administrator, Logan, disagreed with where to measure in order to calculate the setback average. This change moves the starting point of our addition back 6 feet, which greatly impacts the design. It is frustrating to know that had we started this process just a few months earlier, when the former zoning administrator was there, this would not be an issue. It's unfair that this abrupt change was not communicated to the public, especially given the impact that it has on our project as well as future projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
The fact that I didn't get run over today in the parking lot. It's not a formal complaint, but a guy driving a black truck tried to run me over. Yeah, something about, we didn't want to hear public comments from, yeah, I heard that through the window, Chair. So
State your name. Where
my
you're
name's
from.
Chris Nelson. I'm from Milltown Township. I'm representing Nelson Construction Services here today. And I did print out my letter. I'm going to try to read from it because I would probably ramble on. I'm sure you guys know, enough of you know me that I would just ramble. So I kept it short. I gave copies to the clerk. I'd like you guys to read them. Obviously, staff is probably going to want to read them too. So anyways, I'll start. I'm here today to discuss recent issues concerning Polk County zoning administration. As you've heard from the Sarch family today, new personnel and their interpretation of pre-existing rules and policies will change an already existing precedent set and enforced by the previous Polk County zoning administration. I have been working in construction field in Polk County for the past 30 years. I've held a seat on 2 citizen advisory committees on specifically Polk County zoning. Once in the 90s, that was back Jeff Peterson days, Spinell. And again, about 10 years ago, I sat on a zoning or a citizen advisory committee. Up to about 6 weeks ago, I thought I had a good understanding of Polk County zoning. So for some context to my concerns, approximately 6 weeks ago, I met with the zoning administrator on a different site to verify a requirement for waterfront properties called setback averaging. These setback rules are used to maintain a consistent development standard across all properties. The new Polk County zoning administrator, Logan, had me hold the tape measure on a building overhang and not to the attached deck of the structure. I asked him why and when did the location that we reference change. Logan responded with me. He had an issue on another project recently, and due to that, decided to make an administrative interpretation of Polk County zoning definition. I then proceeded to inform Logan about the Sarge project and discussed, we had the design completed using the previous setback averaging and was ready for permits. Logan and I then scheduled a similar site review 2 weeks later on the Sarge project. I proceeded to measure from the attached deck's base, but Logan wanted to measure again from the dwelling overhang. I was concerned because the location of any structure that these dimensions are taken from can have a substantial impact on what and where things can be built on a property. Based on Logan's requested new measuring locations for setback averaging on the current plans, designs, and estimates for Sarge project would not work, and the effort put into creating those are lost. And we're talking hundreds of man hours. We have the design done, we have everything done, we're ready to go. It's all junk. I would like to note based on the previous administration policy and the interpretation of those definitions, the Sarge project would have been permitted just a few months earlier. Recently, we recently filed a permit application for the Sarge project based on previous administration interpretations. We used the same rule set used to grant multiple permits prior to this administrator. Our permit was denied due to the new interpretation of setback averaging rules. Letters from Logan at the zoning confirmed he had a different interpretation of the definitions. Logan stated if he had known Jason measured this way, he may have looked at it different. I proceeded to forward Logan a copy of a previous permit issued September 2023. Chair, could I have just another minute? Thank you. Logan stated if he would have known Jason measured this way, he may have looked at this different. I proceeded to forward Logan a copy of the previous permit issued in September of 2023 on Half Moon Lake using a previous setback averaging. This permit was approved by Polk County zoning administrator. I furnished the county a copy of that permit and also a copy of my contract start date with the Sarches, which just 2 months after we had this approved. I had another meeting and talked to Jason, and yep, that's how we do it. So that's how that happened. I again spoke with Logan, the zoning administrator, about the history and the new interpretations of these definitions and the impact they would cause to property owners and businesses in Polk County, especially by not notifying anyone of this change. I asked why we did not receive a public notice of change of his proceeded to state he was not required to tell the public or the Environmental Service Committee that it was his administrative call on how to interpret the rule. That is a major problem or lapse in judgment, in my opinion. To have no public notification or change can negatively impact future projects in the county, especially some that have been planning for months. Another example, just this last weekend, I met a realtor and a potential buyer on a lake lot, discussed setbacks and zoning requirements for a future new home. We do this every day, us guys that work here. We're constantly meeting people and trying to inform them of our rules. It was just about a year ago to date, I had a meeting with Jason, a previous zoning administrator, to discuss setback averaging on this same exact lot. I informed them with the current owner. I informed them that I do not currently have confidence in the new zoning department's leadership, interpretation of the rules for me to give them sound advice on what they can or cannot do. It should be concerning when the public and local businesses start losing confidence in any authoritative body that we look to for leadership and the consistency regarding interpretations of definition, rules, and policy. I may be just an early complaint due to the frequency and the nature of my business. I expect you will hear from others soon. An additional concern based on past experiences are that you may find people feeling that they can start substantial projects without permits due to the rules and changes. And I'm hearing that. People are starting to be worried a little about what's going on here. And you may also lose your leadership positions. Townships are now starting to talk. Obviously, it's on the agenda today. I've heard it from a couple other townships that, you know, is it time for us to get out of county zoning? So I have two requests. First, I would ask this committee to please consider adding to your agenda a discussion on interpretations of definitions and zoning administrators' notifications of policy changes to your committee and to the public. I think this discussion will help shine light on this specific issue and how many more property owners and small businesses and employees are affected by Polk County zoning leadership and operations. Second, I also believe the information regarding this previous setback interpretation and details regarding the Sarge project, we have supplied the county enough, should be sufficient enough to issue the requested permits as proposed on the original permit application. The county should not ask us to appeal an administrator decision to the Board of Appeals. This should be done in the public and with your oversight, as these are new interpretations of existing definitions and policies that impact more than just this one project. Please ask your zoning administrator to reconsider all the facts and feedbacks he has now received. There should be no valid reason to put the families, property owners, and businesses of Polk County in this new hardship created by the leadership of this zoning department. Our county zoning department had been working well for many, many years. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Public comment? No one else? All right, public comment is closed. We do that. Mr. Luke, you are the only other.
I'm here to learn.
You're here to learn. So number 6 is good. Okay. Discussion regarding conservancy easements here. Conservation easements, excuse me.
If you could please put up the map that I provided here. Introduce myself, Eric Wycheck from the Land and Water Resources Department. Bringing another update on the conservation easement that was initiated by the Half Moon Lake Conservancy to the Kaiser family. And so we have this map that will display just so that you've got a point of reference of the area that we're talking. So at this point, there has been a willingness by the landowner to put this portion of their property under a conservation easement with covenants that will restrict development and some land uses and so forth. There has been a purchase agreement drafted. It has been reviewed by Atollas Law. I've been working with Rebecca at Atollas Law. She reviewed the purchase agreement, and now upon approval of the changes to that purchase agreement by the Half Moon Lake Conservancy and the Kaiser family, that has now, we're now in the process of drafting the conservation easement. So Rebecca at Atollas Law is working on that. So does not have it ready yet. We were hoping that there might be some action on it at this meeting, but we'll have to move that to next month's meeting. And that'll be okay because it'll give us time to lay out all the documents and make sure that all parties involved are okay with the conservation easement and the purchase agreement and so forth, and then bring it to committee in its full form. And you'll have your review of the conservation easement before that meeting, to which you can take action to see if the county would be the easement holder for that easement. So
what, does that cost us anything? That doesn't cost us anything. to be the
No.
easement holder, does it?
no, not really.
Force the easement then?
Yeah, it would be our role in Land and Water Resources to hold that easement and enforce it. Just make sure that all of the items within that easement are
All the covenants and different things are covered.
are being followed. And that area is a wetland area anyway, and many of the covenants involved in that easement, and again, it's in draft form, but they're likely to be restrictions on agricultural land use, no development, no pasturing, They'll also include at the owner's request, no public hunting on that portion. So those are the kind of things that this easement would include. But given that it's mostly wetland area, it's not suitable for those land uses really anyway. So the intent of the easement is to protect water quality and Harder Creek to improve and maintain water quality on Half Moon Lake. So that's where that's at. Any questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Land and Water Resources, you said it's your responsibility then to enforce any of the restrictions on the easement. So if we talk about something like public hunting and somebody's on there hunting, how does Land and Water, how are you able to enforce something like
Yeah,
that?
that's a good question. I think enforcement is probably a strong term
Okay.
in that case, okay? This is still under private ownership, so really it would be the landowner's ability to manage who's out there. If somebody were out there hunting, it would be a complaint-driven process, and we would have to know about it through the complaint. And then it's likely we would then have the ability to post signs, no public hunting then. So,
It'd be DNR though, wouldn't it, that issue? It'd be a DNR
Or would it
award.
be a trespassing issue that
Yeah.
you could have local law enforcement involved?
could be that, yeah, could be sheriff's department trespass issue. Mhm.
So you said it's privately owned, so it'd be owned by the Half Moon Lake Conservancy?
It would be owned by the Kaiser family or any subsequent owners. Yeah, the Half Moon Lake Conservancy is compensating the owners, the current owners of the property to impose these covenants on that portion of land through this easement.
So it's actually would still be owned by
Still under
family.
private ownership, yep. And would continue to be private as it was sold, and just this area would be identified as a conservation easement and on the deed, legal description, things like that.
I just know of one other situation where there's a conservancy that holds a parcel and there's been some issues with hunting and trespassing and things like that. And all of a sudden there's no one to contact, no one to, other than if the complainant contacts local authorities, but it's kind of this vague situation when you said enforcement, that's why I want some clarification. So thank you.
Yeah, if there is, I mean, if that's a conservation easement held by Polk County and in Polk County, there are two others. I mean, we would want to know about that because we could take steps to prevent that from happening. But really, there's not a lot of workload in this, and it would likely be at the landowner's request to take action on any of the covenants that may not be in line with that. So
Okay.
we wouldn't be actively out there, monitoring this site.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yep. Any other questions?
All right, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, we got quite a bit of time, don't we? Do you have Sarah's update? Tim, did they throw that to you?
I've got part of it, yeah.
Well, let's hear it then.
Good morning, Environmental Services Committee members and public. My name's Tim Anderson. I'm the Polk County Planner, for those of you that don't know me. Today, I wanted to just give you a brief update on one of the projects that's being worked on here at the county, which is the outdoor rec plan. Just to give you a refresher, the outdoor rec plan is updated every 5 years, and it's due to be updated and adopted this year. Plan describes some outdoor recreation opportunities within the county. Our plan, since it's ours, focuses on county-owned recreational opportunities, but it does include references and inclusion of municipal, state, federal opportunities as well in the county. Beyond describing those outdoor recreation opportunities, the plan is an opportunity to showcase some of the trends that are in outdoor recreation currently, future projects and funding sources that might be coming down the pipe, highlight recently completed projects, and also gather public input on outdoor recreation in the county. Speaking of public input, right now we have an online survey available. It was opened on July 19th. It's available on our website. Currently have about 160 responses to that survey, and it closes on the 19th of August. So if you haven't filled it out yet, please do so and spread the word. We want as many people as possible to fill out that survey. If you go to our county homepage, it's the first latest news icon right now. So that's about, if you scroll down just like a third of the way down the page, it'll be on the left side there. We have spread the word to the stakeholders through our Parks and Trails director, through to the user groups. There are signs and placards at any of the county-owned facilities that have a QR code that'll take you to the survey. So we're trying to get the word out and get as many responses as we can. In addition, the plan's being drafted right now, and as I mentioned, needs to be adopted by the board by the end of the year. In case you're wondering, the trail network plan will be included. All the projects that haven't been dealt with yet, we will include those in the plan going forward for the outdoor rec plan. Parks and Rec and forestry staff are currently doing inventory and taking a kind of a status of the recreation facilities, whether it's our parks or forestry properties and trails, for the update in this plan. One thing I did want to mention is that while I'm giving you this update, Parks did transition right from this committee to Public Safety, Public Works. So it's my understanding that the Public Safety and Public Works Committee will be the one that will recommend this plan to the county board for adoption later this year. So it just felt like that was the best spot for it. I can still keep you updated as much as you want on the progress and what's happened. You know, we can give you survey results and where things are at with the draft going on. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Again, the timeline is adopted by the end of the year. So right now, we're planning on wrapping up the survey, getting the draft plan out by October, then holding a public hearing with committee review and adoption or recommendation likely around November, and then the adoption by county board in December.
Is the link to that survey on like the ES Facebook page and stuff?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
You could maybe add that there.
So the committee's gonna have an open house though, basically too.
Yeah, like we did last time. Yeah.
Have a
And in the
set up, okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Are they gonna do that at night or during the regular committee, or do we know yet? Or haven't you?
My preference would be do the evening so that we can have more people show up.
To get
for
more
it.
people,
Yep.
okay, at the open house would be.
Yep.
All right.
And then lastly, for me, just want to make you aware of two other planning projects that are on the radar coming up either later this year, or starting early next year. That would be the grant opportunity we got for the bicycle and pedestrian plan, which has been talked about and been delayed a few times. One of the reasons because this position wasn't here for a year. So we're working with West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission on that. They're going to do the bulk of the work, but we will have, you know, public input opportunities and identification of routes and that kind of thing for bicycle and pedestrian opportunities in the county going forward. We're in our West Central Wisconsin region. I think it's us and Clark County that don't have them right now. So we will be working with Barron County and St. Croix County to make sure there's connections across county lines for that plan. And then finally, the big kahuna in my world, which is the county's comprehensive plan. It hasn't been redone since 2014 with the update of the farmland preservation plan back then. That needs to be updated, and we're trying to stay as close as we can to the census information, which came out a little later due to COVID this year or this time. So thankfully, we will have updated census information, whereas last time we adopted everything in 2009. So that's about as old as census information gets from 2000. So that'll be on the plan, on the docket for 2025, at least starting. So
that'll be this committee. We get to do that again.
correct. Yep.
Yay, okay.
Yeah. Something to look forward to, Kim. Mhm.
How about the land preservation? Is that one getting updated at the same time or before?
Farmland preservation will be done this year.
That's this year, you'll do that part, okay.
Yeah, it's in draft form right now and should be done within a couple months, I would hope.
Oh, yeah.
So that, the slow winter months, we can look at that, huh?
Before the end of the year.
Oh, before the, okay.
And West Wisconsin Regional Planning, we did share with the supervisors information that they had pulled from the census regarding Polk County and each village and town.
Yep.
Too. So I don't know if you have that too.
Yeah, we have access to that. Some of that information is actually in the farmland preservation plan too, and will be in the outdoor rec plan as well. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, they're good about that. Mhm. Any other questions for me?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. Logan Hacker, Polk County Zoning Administrator. Just had a quick update on the Town of Balsam Lake rural address change that I sent an email, I think about a month out to you guys, giving you a heads up that we were changing about 640 addresses. We've received numerous calls, which was expected. We have received 4 petitions to keep their former address. Those are on Mere Waters, Pinewood Road, Birchwood Terrace, and then a stretch from the Justice Center out to where it turns south on County Road I there. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that those petitions go to the Public Safety and Public Works Committee, not to this committee. So that's something that will be coming up to that committee. There's a process in our rural address ordinance to file a petition for an exception. So those will be coming up there. 3 of them were changed because they were named roads, and in a joint effort between the county and the town, decided that all named roads would be changed to numbered roads to comply with the ordinance and the grid system. The town of Balsam Lake has been receiving a lot of calls as well, so they're discussing with these property owners the possibility, or I think they're planning on going forward with heritage signs, so they would keep the old named road sign with the numbered sign. And also there's concerns that us numbering some of these roads would promote people to drive down them. So they are talking about having private road signs as well out there. Otherwise, that's for all I have for that project. And then I just ran some numbers. We're up a little bit on sanitary permits, about 10 permits, and down on about 20 land use permits. So we're right about average for the year for this time of year. So any questions on either of those? Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
We're tag teaming this one.
Yep, yep.
So.
We'll try to get it so you're both in there all the time.
The finale. So from Land and Water Resources, number of projects that we're working on right now. We are in the process of ordering our trees for our spring 2025 tree sale. We start that, quite a few months in advance. So we've set our species list and are in the process of placing those orders, because those trees go fast with nearly 72 other counties purchasing trees as well. You've heard about our well water collection and studies by watershed in the past. We are in the process of having UW-Stevens Point Water and Environmental Analysis Lab send out test kits to the volunteers that have offered to test their wells in the Rice Beds Creek watershed and the Cedar Lake Horse Creek watershed. So those test kits are hitting people's mailboxes, and they will be submitting those August 20th, I believe. And then this year will be the final year of the undeveloped lake study. That was previous ES committee members' idea, and we're going to be completing that and should have a report and some of the findings on water quality in our more undeveloped lakes here by the end of the year. think in November or December, so look for a report on that. Lastly, last week was the July 31st. We had the third Lake and River Organization meeting, and this is an organization that kind of convened by request of our lake group citizens. And the purpose of this lake organization group was to convene and share ideas and network. And again, lake citizens asked for that meetings like this to share ideas. And a product, this was the third meeting on July 31st. And at the second meeting, they identified some topics that they wanted to talk about for this particular meeting. And one of them was the aquatic invasive species transport ordinance, decontamination stations, and enforcement of those activities or for violations for invasive species transport and lack of use of decontamination stations. So we're fortunate enough to have representation from the Sheriff's Department. Very appreciative of Chief Deputy Don Burrows, Rec Officer Ryan Jordan, and Sergeant Mike Stoffel attending that meeting and answering some questions about what is being done with regard to enforcement of no transport of aquatic invasive species, what they're able to do, and how to, strengthen some of the enforcement processes within that to keep our water clean and free as best we can from invasive species. So, any questions? It was a great meeting. Typically about 30 people attend those meetings, so it's well attended.
Is there one on the 10th though, too, of August?
Pardon me?
The state one is on the 10th, Saturday of August. Is that for all invasive species? Isn't there a thing on that?
Boy, there could be, but I'm not aware of.
DNR has that one, I think. I thought I seen an update on that.
Sure. Yeah, you could be right. I haven't seen that update.
Okay.
Of those 30 people attending, there's about 15 lakes in our county representative, large to small. So good representation.
Don't you have a bid out too for a manure pit?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yep, we currently are taking bids for a large manure storage structure up in the town of Lake Town. So yeah, we're hoping to start construction on that yet this fall. We also were taking bids on a stream crossing over in the Clayton area, a stream ford equipment crossing. So
Logging or for a trail or what?
for agricultural,
Oh, for ag, okay.
Yep. Agricultural purposes, access to row crop land, things like that. Mhm.
Okay.
And we also have a project on Lake Magner that finished up this week. So yeah, a lot of construction going on for our team. Busy end of summer, early fall for us.
Explain a little more about the large manure pit
Yeah,
in Lake Town. What is,
sure. So it's a smaller dairy operation that lacked adequate manure storage. So our team has come in and they expressed interest in improving their manure storage system. So we put a design together. There is cost sharing for that activity and that improvement. So we applied for a pretty substantial DNR targeted runoff management grant. And that will help cover 70, 75 or 70+% of the cost of this thing. And I don't recall the capacity of this manure storage system at this point. It had been designed and then redesigned to be more feasible, but yeah, we'll include a push-off transfer system and adequate manure storage for this particular operation that needed it. Again, this was an operation that needed storage so that they weren't, running the risk of runoff and untimely manure applications to the row crop lands.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions of land and water? Yeah, go
I'll
ahead.
just give you one more update.
Sure, don't quit now.
Thought that was the finale.
Yeah. I gotta send off a little bigger, Eric. No, just kidding. One thing I did want to update you guys on is the transition from E911 to next generation 911, at least the land information side of things. Brad Runderberg, our GIS coordinator, has done a yeoman's amount of work to get that data set and all the data in the right format, all the right stuff. There's a bunch of different types of like what they call errors. There's critical errors, and then there's like marginal errors or something like that. And all that needed to be done by August, and he got it done mid-July before he left for vacation. And it was a big lift. So I appreciate all his hard work. I just want to give him a shout out and say thank you for that work. From what I understand, there's been a little bit of delay too in the implementation of the next gen 911. There's some hiccup about a pinch point or something like that in the Rice Lake area. So it's, instead of being mid-August, it's going to be sometime in September from what I've heard lately. So, but that's one of the reasons why the addressing stuff is being updated, is to make sure that when emergencies happen, people in their places and can be found. So it's a big amount of work that happens typically in the background that most people don't see or don't know about it until something bad happens, unfortunately. And so we're doing our best to make sure that everything's good on our end. And so I appreciate the efforts that have been done to make sure that happens by our team.
So is the LiDAR coming in then this year yet? Or is that?
We have the LiDAR,
Got
but
some of it, yeah.
yep, the online tool that we want to use is in part of the budget process for next year. So
So the first part that we paid for isn't really here yet. We're already buying a new piece of it.
it's here. It's just to be able
We
to
just don't
take that.
use it, you're saying.
Yeah, to be able to take that and use it in an
Yeah.
online application, that's one of the reasons why we want to get that application out, so that
All right.
it's not just bought and sit there. So, and same thing with the aerial photography flight. You'll see that in the budget for next year. We are budgeting 6-inch for our place.
6 or 3.
6-inch for us, for our budgeting purposes, but the Department of Military Affairs at the state level is offering to pay for the difference between going from 6-inch to 3-inch for the.
Down to 3. So.
So, yep, that grant application is due on the 15th, and I'm waiting for a specific quote on the price difference, and then I'm submitting it this week, so.
Now, are we doing it with St. Croix and Burnett? Aren't they, does that
There's-
help us to do with the 3?
The W-Rock, yeah, the W-Rock program that's administered by Ayers and Associates.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different counties that will be applying for the same amount of funding, so we're adding ours to it, so the consortium allows for like the 6-inch photography and the 3-inch to be reduced in price because you have all this bulk flying and that kind of stuff. So hopefully, if the grant comes through, which we're highly anticipating that it will, we will be able to get 3-inch aerial photography for the price of 6-inch.
I think St. Croix has got theirs applied for.
If you want to see the difference, last time we flew in 2020, you can go into the villages of Osceola and the city of St. Croix Falls and the city of Amory. They have 3-inch in those municipalities. You can see the difference, and it's markedly different.
See your trash can.
It's the difference between seeing like a blurry road versus seeing like the cracks in the road kind of thing. So it's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It'll be really helpful for all of us, including the public. So that's what I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Litigation update. Do we have to go in a closed session or is there any?
We could, if we want to do that, because we've got
We got 20 minutes.
public hearing, I think we could go into closed session as long as that's not an issue tech-wise. I don't know. There's several people that are on. But we could go into closed session to give a litigation update. We could also just take a recess between now and 10.
Take a break then and save that for the end, I guess, couldn't we?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, we forgot. We forgot. Oh,
do that. And then let's,
Which one are you
Brief
under?
recess.
Administrators? How's this working?
Sure for you.
Like person.
Interesting person.
Morning, everyone. Give you guys a quick update of where we stand with accounting. We got the audit done for 2023. Here. Ready? That slide. There we go. All right, we got the audit back for 2023. Going to go over some of the highlights here. In 2023, October budget was balanced. Subsequently, the board did pass 20 projects to come out of our general fund and passed a deficit budget of $2.9 million. As a point of reference, we did the same thing in 2024 with a deficit budget of $1.9 million. The 2023 audit showed we finished with a deficit of 2.1, so we saved $800,000 on those projects. Moving forward, that was, next slide. Where that leaves our fund balance, $29 million right now. Previous committed is $4.6 million. Available is $7.8 million. Of that, 50% is our number target you can use for that. We are projecting to have a balanced budget for 2025, using all our levers and not going into our general fund balance for our savings account. Slide. 2023 to 2025, the board priorities: increase public safety, reduce substance abuse, expand broadband accents. Boy, I'm having a hard time. Invest in parks, trails, and tourism. Support housing was a new one, and improve infrastructure was on there also. So some of the highlights from there in public safety, we upgraded 911 center, traded in tasers and upgraded the radios, added additional communications officer, and we upgraded the presence at the security at the Justice Center and the Government Center here. We have our security guards out here now, which is helpful. They have a great presence. Under consideration for this next coming budget is additional patrol positions. So we're looking at 3 more officers. Part of that is funded by a grant for the first 3 years at 50%, and replacement of squads. So we're looking at those on our 2025 budget and getting those numbers in there right now. Next slide. Substance abuse, recent actions. We're in year 4 of 5 of the Drug-Free Communities Grant, year 3 of the TAD grant for diversion programs. We've done Narcan training with CSD staff. Our alcohol compliance checks are ongoing with our tobacco compliance checks. That's a really good program that's out there that we have a lot of good success on. And we're also supporting the pro-sober programming like the Onyx House. That's going forward. Under consideration for this time, we've had staff go to Family Recovery Court in other counties and look how those programs are looking. They're very favorable. They've been working with the judges on those. So that's one thing that we are considering and looking at bringing into Polk County to help with our system. Okay. Broadband. Is significant investment in locals for laying fiber in our ditches. The county board had set aside $1 million grant to expand coverage. Right now, there's only 200,000 of that encumbered for the town of Beaver. So that leaves $800,000 still out there with that. Under consideration is support for areas such as Osceola, not eligible for grants to run fiber from road to the house. That's the biggest connection right now, is how do we get the fiber from the ditch to the house? And it varies depending on company and how they're doing that. Some had incentives. For myself, it was $300 to run it from my house to the road, to hook onto it. Other ones, it's thousands of dollars depending on the length of the driveway. Trying to come up with a program on how it equitably we could divide that fund to help everyone out has been the challenge on that. Next slide. So right now we're 93% covered in Polk County with high-speed fiber optic in our ditches, and that's awesome in the state. I mean, we are a leader in the state with that. So one of the things, which will be a board decision we're looking at, is that $800,000. Is that $800,000 continue to use for broadband and try to find that in there, or do we declare victory and move that to capital projects, such as a grandstand or another project that we have in there? So we'll be looking at that lever later on, but that'll be a board decision when we move forward with that. Parks and trails. We've done a lot on those recent actions. We've done upgrades at the D.D. Kennedy, Park, and new bathrooms are in there, sidewalks. We paved the trails out there. The Sterling Park, the ATV park is scheduled to open up this fall yet. That is moving along very well. Summers Lake, we expanded the trails. We put in parking for, horse trailers on those with a nice loop. Clam Falls Dam is currently going. There is some delays in that project, which will be drawn down still over the winter now. The gates will go in this fall. Unfortunately, the actuators are 5 months out, so the actuators will not be installed until February timeframe. With that, there's a short window where we can actually fill the flowage back. And if we don't hit that date, we have to wait another time. So next year we'll start filling that back, but it's going to be later in the year. With that, the new restrooms at the trailhead down at St. Croix Falls across from the tourist center there is up and open. We are still waiting on a couple projects, Atlas Dam and the walking bridge at D.D. Kennedy. Those projects have been in the works for a couple of years now. They're still waiting on DNR approval and plan review. Latest word from DNR said they hope to get to that by the end of the year. So
Which year did they say?
no, they did not give a year. So the $250,000 walking bridge, I would venture to say is going to be a lot more. From that, we're just waiting on some of them. I'm going to shoot out some emails to DNR uppers to find out, is there?
We can charge them the extras that they put it off on us.
I'd love to send that bill. Send that bill. Under consideration this time, new docks at Lake Magner. The grandstand is still out there. We're still in design with that and working with the fair on those costs. The cost right now of the grandstand is up to $1.76 million. And that's just for the grandstand. So we're working on those. The other one we got to look at that I'd like to look at is the PTAG money. The money set aside from the lime quarry sale, resolution 1021, that was set aside after our current projects are done, just to be used for development of new trails and improvement of county trails. What I'd like to do is come forward with a resolution to include parks with that, so we can use some of that money for capital projects for parks also. Currently in that fund, there's $695,718 in that account as of February 11th. So that's another lever to look at capital projects with that adding to things. Next slide.
That has a list of about 20 other things, doesn't it?
It has a lot of little projects underneath that one versus building newer projects all the time.
To maintain what we have.
Maintain what we have and keep that up to date. Otherwise, when we expand the parks too far out, we're going to need more.
Sure.
Housing priority was a new priority. The county set aside $200,000 for housing projects, $70,000 per community if they applied. We have one application. Amory is putting in townhomes, so they have a $70,000 contract with us. Corporate council's drafting that, so they'll be working on those. It's a townhome community near the high school, so that's a really good win for us. For that project. Infrastructure was roads, County Road B. B was originally going to be done this year. That's got moved to 2025 due to the state. And we also have several others in the queue for those with that. Building and services, CISA Northwoods, we replaced the HVAC in that. We're working on that project now, and the recycling center is ongoing at this time to be finished by November is the target date for that project.
Are they gonna work on that? That looks pretty bad.
Yeah,
The weeds that's 3 feet high on the piles.
the holdup on that was one of the interior walls where they expanded the tipping floor had to be redesigned to remove some more of that wall. So they're waiting on a state permit for that. We've been encouraging the contractor to get back on site to work on other things. And we should have that permit in hand next week, which they'll be back on site then to finish that project.
There's a lot of complaints that it looks, people think they're tearing it down, not building it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They showed up and did not finish it. So overall, in the summary, we have the financial position of the county is very strong. We are meeting the challenge of increasing tight revenues, solid progress on board priorities, workforce, stable. We have a lot of pressures from the private side recruiting away our talent. You know, when we have good employees, they come after us to get our employees away from us. Discipline is key, though.
So do we wave?
We use all our tools to achieve these priorities. We need to keep our levy flat and stable, and part of that is bonding to offset levy for capital projects. The broadband money's out there. We use our sales tax. Our investment sales tax last month was down 1.7%. With that, so we just need to use all our tools in our budget to keep a balanced budget. And right now, we're projecting a balanced budget for 2025 that we'll put forth with all our requests to move forward on that. A couple other things, just a reminder. With that
Somebody threw her under the bus.
of course. The fees that you adopted in July will go to general government as the total package in this month to be approved and moved on to the county board. We did complete our IT security assessment. Staff's going through that to see if we have any weaknesses or have to update anything. Our employee picnic is set for October 8th at Highway. Everyone here is invited. If you can't make that one, we do have a smaller employee picnic down at Golden Age Manor on October 9th for that one. So those are my current updates. The new numbers are in right now. For net new construction was up 1.34%, around $106,000, and equalized value is up 9% for Polk County. With those right now. And that's all I have for an update.
Can we get a copy of that presentation? It's helpful
Yes.
when we talk to, you know, like the villages and towns and give updates there. We could,
It'll be in your minutes packet too.
great,
And they'll be posted online at
Okay.
for each committee with the minutes.
great. Thank
Just let
you.
the highway, which roads are you gonna do, like E and I, some of these, so I can pull my trailer down them?
We have federal funding for on I-8 up there. We have federal funding, got approved for County Road T from 8 to the lake. Those projects are gonna be pushed because they overfunded their projects and don't have money to build them in the year they slated for, so they'll be pushed out probably one more year.
Okay,
But those years are looking at 28 and possibly year 30 for County Road T.
would be anything left of the road?
A little bit on the edges. A lot.
It'd be trash,
We
but
do have G online and several other bridges with federal funding that are gonna be replaced also in that same time frame.
okay,
So
all right. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, we're good. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
We will get a short 6-minute break then. Before the hearing starts.
We don't have much.
Let's start. We'll read the first one in. No.
Right. First public hearing, Damian and Taylor Bleckinger requested district change from agriculture 20 A2 to residential agriculture 5 RA5 for a parcel located in section 10, town 35 north, range 15 west in the town of Johnstown. Parcel number is 02800215000, and it is 0.558 or 0.55 acres. So this is the property, if you could pull up the zoning district layer over here, Claire, please. Should be. Probably back up. See zoning. Scroll down, just, there you go. So the town of Johnstown or around, they kind of had a blanket Ag 20 zoning district, back when they did their comp plan. You go south on Pipe Lake, because that's a class 1 lake, that's R1 all the way around it. Because North Pipe is a class 2 lake, it doesn't have that, residential 300-foot buffer around it. So the reason for the rezone today is the setbacks for Ag 20 are 25 feet from the side lot lines. And the applicant is proposing to build a structure, and due to the narrow lots here, looking for a zoning district change to reduce the side setback, which would then fall under the class 2 setback would be the most restrictive, which would be 15 feet, I believe. The town did approve the rezone request at their May 14th meeting of this year. The property is located in the shoreline zoning area on North Pipe Lake, which is a class 2 lake. The land use is residential. The surrounding land use is zoned agriculture 20, but a majority of the properties around the lake are used residentially, as you can see from the map. The applicant purchased the property in July of 2020. There is currently 1 dwelling and a boathouse on the property. And I believe the request is to have another accessory building or garage on the property. Correct, earlier, it would go from 25 feet to 10-foot side yard setback, so I apologize for that error originally. The parcel has access off of a private road, which is 20th Street. There are no wetlands or floodplain on the property. And the county did provide a proper class 2 legal notice prior to the hearing, and we did not receive any public comments for or against. That's all I have for the staff report.
Did you say there's a building already on there?
Yeah, there's a dwelling already on there, correct, right there.
Did you bring it up to see if the sewer and water or it doesn't affect that if they're building, or that we'll leave alone because that's,
Yeah, they're just building an accessory building, so yeah, it wouldn't affect.
that won't affect the rezoning part. All right.
I believe the applicant is here.
Yes, yeah. And do you have anything to add or?
No, you covered it pretty well.
Okay. Anyone here to talk for or against it? Nobody else? Do we have any other questions? No, it's just on the zoning part. It's not considered spot zoning because that should be. Is that something that you think they missed when we redid it, that
So-
should have all been that way?
I know the town, because of this specific rezone, I think they are going to look at that going forward. Due to the whole lake pretty much being used residentially.
Between the road and the lake, or that 300?
Yeah,
But
that's pretty much the 300-foot is already used, just like Pipe Lake is.
sure.
So I believe in the comp plan, when they update it here, I believe that is something they are going to be looking into, but,
Okay.
and I did explain that to the applicant and I believe he had that conversation with the town. But he was, hoping to get going, I guess. soon,
Sure.
But not that that has any effect on this.
All right.
I mean, because it is used residentially in the area, even though it's zoned A1, we would consider that consistent with the area.
With the areas, all right. So if there's no other what is it, do you have your staff recommendation or you have?
Yeah, so the findings of facts was kind of in one with the staff report. So I kind of touched on all of this already. And then I have my conclusion. If there's no questions on the findings of facts. So the conclusion of law, changing the zoning of this property to residential agriculture 5 or RA5 is supported by the town of Johnstown. A majority of the surrounding lots are used for residential purposes. So rezoning the property complies with the Polk County Comprehensive Plan, existing and surrounding land use, and will not have a negative impact on existing public infrastructure.
Okay.
So then I think below that is staff recommendation is to recommend approval of the rezone to the full county board.
Anyone have any questions on this one? If not, I'll entertain a motion,
Make a motion to approve, send it to the full county board.
the consent agenda,
Yes.
Second.
seconded by Doug. All those in favor then say aye. Opposed? All right. Moves on.
Next public hearing, Larry D. Wright Jr. requests a conditional use permit under section 42-803, parent D, parent 1 of the Polk County Code of Ordinances to establish a commercial, small-scale solar energy system on the property located in the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter, section 16, town 36 north, range 17 west, in the town of Luck. The parcel number is 03600355000. And the parcel is 38.25 acres. Claire has the parcel up here. You have some pictures from the site that were taken. So this is a picture of the substation there that's currently right next to the proposed solar energy system. This is looking southeast from that point. So currently you can see, this is looking down the road to the west. You can see the open field currently, I think it was probably used for farmland before. Currently it's just a grassland. Is looking west down to 80th Avenue. East. Across the field. Is looking again to the southeast. This is a picture from the road of one of I think this is the closest dwelling to the project. Just showing the distance, that the dwelling is off the road. And this is another dwelling that's down the road to the west a little bit further, showing where the dwelling is located. I know the applicant has a presentation as well, so I'll just give a brief description of the project. So they're proposing a 2.5 megawatt ground mount solar farm, which would be up in this section of this parcel. It's approximately 13 acres in size. A small-scale energy system is a conditional use under Chapter 42, Article 6 of the Polk County Code of Ordinances. That is why they are here requesting a conditional use. The small scale is 0 to 30 megawatts. The town of Luck had no comments regarding this project. The DNR was out there to do a wetland delineation on July 18th, 2024, and they determined there are no wetlands within the proposed project area. The access is off of 280th Avenue, which is a town road. They don't currently have a legal access off of there, but it is in the plan on their diagrams showing where the proposed driveway is, which is approximately in this location, I believe. The applicant submitted proper notice to all landowners within a half a mile of the planned host property. So in our ordinance, we require 90 days prior to them submitting the application, they must notify all landowners within a half a mile of this property. And they did fulfill that requirement. There are also no active land use permits in the surrounding area, which is another condition in our ordinance as far as creating impermissible interference for this project. So I did look at the surrounding properties. Nobody has contacted us stating they had plans to improve their property that would affect this project or any open permits that could be built on. The project is projected to supply electricity to 635 households, and there was a proper Class 2 legal notice prior to this hearing and did not receive any public comments on this request. That's all I have.
So we didn't receive comments either way. Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right.
Yeah, via the letters or the public notice, we didn't receive.
We did, okay. All right, so now, bet you guys want to give us a presentation.
I do have some hard copies here in case anybody would like them. I'll just set this here if you want to pass this down.
Sure.
So I've met a lot of you already. My name's Beth Esser. I'm with One Energy Renewables. We're working in partnership with Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative on this proposed solar project. We do have a slideshow. Would that be able to be brought up?
It's your presentation. Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. So One Energy is happy to be working with Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative again. Pictured here on this first slide is a project that we worked with them on last year in the town of Georgetown. This project that we're proposing today is very similar to this one. So if you've driven by that, you'll know what we're talking about today. So One Energy Renewables, I'm here also with my colleagues Stanley and Tran. We're out of Madison and we have been partnering with utilities in the Midwest to build what are called front of the meter projects. So these types of solar projects tie directly into distribution systems and serve local customers versus projects that you might see on somebody's rooftop. That's the type of solar development that we work on. And our Madison office has a team of developers, engineers, and our construction team that work on these projects. Next slide. So in our Midwest experience that we have, we've developed 42 projects. The majority of those are in Wisconsin, and I'm happy to say a lot of them are for the rural Wisconsin electric cooperatives that are part of Dairyland Power, which is what Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative is. So these projects are again designed to tie directly into the local existing distribution system and serve the customers of those cooperatives. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Heather to talk about Polk Burnett.
Yeah, so I'll just make a couple comments about who Polk Burnett is. Most of you are probably familiar. We're a distribution co-op. We're headquarters are right over here in Centuria. We have about 22,000 electric accounts. We're governed by a local board of 9 directors that are elected by our members. We're a distribution co-op, so that means we buy our power elsewhere. We don't generate it. We actually have a contract to buy all of our power from Dairyland Power Cooperative, which is headquartered in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So they own the power plants and then the transmission lines to get it to the substations in our area. Polk then builds and maintains those distribution lines that bring power to your homes and businesses and farms. So like I said, we are contracted to buy from Dairyland, but we are allowed a certain allocation for projects like Georgetown and this proposed Lux project. So that's just a little about how we're involved with this. But we do have 2 existing projects. We have one project that is behind our headquarters in Centuria. It's a 1.25 megawatt array. Polk actually purchases power from the 0.25 megawatt, the power that's generated from that. The other megawatt, actually Dairyland Power buys that. And then our Georgetown project just went live in December. That's a 2 megawatt project next to the substation out in Georgetown. And so we worked with One Energy on that project.
So, just a little bit about why solar projects are being pursued in Wisconsin. So it's really a way to become more energy independent in the state and in the country to have these locally generated sources of energy. Currently, Wisconsin sends about $14 billion out of state on other fuel sources. So this is a way to keep some of that money more in state. Solar, our landowners that we work with continue to farm around these projects, and many of the farmers that we work with already are in energy production by growing corn for ethanol. So this is another way that farmers are starting to help produce energy in our state. Solar is a little bit more efficient use of land than corn. It is about 100 times more efficient, actually. So you can use less land for energy production in that capacity. And predictions are that 1.4% of land in Wisconsin would be used if we were to generate some of that with solar. So I always kind of laugh that our company name is One Energy, and I really don't believe that one energy is what we need in this country. We actually need multiple sources of energy, you know? So solar is just one piece of that puzzle. And Steve and Heather will talk more about their diversity of energy mixes.
Yeah, so specifically, why Lux Solar and why do we want to do another project? And our reasons for doing another project is very much the same as why we did the Georgetown project. One of the reasons is that demand is increasing on our distribution system. Hopefully, by adding these, small solar projects next to our substations, it'll defer the need to increase the capacity of some of the equipment in the substation, like transformers. We've also seen, we've all seen on the news that they're decommissioning traditional fossil fuel plants, coal. Those need to be replaced with something. And it seems like there seems to be a real struggle even for permitting for like a natural gas plant. And we know that solar is an intermittent source, and it's not going to take care of all of the base load that needs to be replaced. But we think that this will help. We need to get generation from somewhere. Oftentimes, we see peaks on hot summer days, and we think that this array will help a lot. We also, Beth had touched on it. We don't want one source of energy, but we want to be diversified in the types of energy that we get, whether it be coal, natural gas, renewable energy. And the other is, this is all looking out for our membership. We are looking to lock in a price to purchase this power for 30 years at a fixed price. So at least we'll know, as we see wholesale prices keep going up, we'll at least have that percentage of our purchases locked in that we know the price of. And it'll be fixed price for 30 years.
Does a customer get that then too? The fixed price for 30 years?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, good morning. My name is Steve Stroshane, CEO of Polk, and I just want to talk a little bit about the system demand growth. So Heather said we are growing. This is just a graph just illustrating it. You can see when we look at system demand and really the pressure on our system, it really is weather dependent. So what we've noticed though in recent years is the blue line used to be a winter. We used to be a winter peaking system. And now we have become a summer peaking system, and you can see the last couple peaks in 20 and 21 due to the pandemic. There was just you talked about it earlier here today. More broadband, people coming to their cabins, staying longer, working remote, and we've seen that through the demands on our system on hot summer days. So solar does help in meeting those operational challenges. As Heather said, there's just less baseload power out there these days. So this isn't a solution to everything, but this just helps us. It helps us during the summertime. So we are growing. We connected the last couple of years about 350 new services, and again, that's just a lot of continued increase that it puts on the system. So I think that's going to talk a little bit more on the next one.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna go through some things about what we look for to determine a proper site and then the components of the solar project as well. So site selection criteria include three main things. One, we need to find a site that is by existing electrical infrastructure. So working in partnership with Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative, they identified to us a substation that could benefit from a solar project like this. So then they identified the Luck substation, and then we look for land that would be able to accommodate a solar project. And luckily here, we were able to, in the town of Luck, find land that was right adjacent to the substation where also has an interested landowner that would be willing to partner with us in leasing a portion of his land for the project. And that's Larry Wright, as Logan identified. And then the third criteria is the site itself. Is it suitable? So we are looking for a few things. One is it relatively flat? It can have some topography changes. This site is kind of, slopes to the south, so that's beneficial. Also, is it outside of wetlands and floodplains? So floodplains, no floodplains here, and wetlands, the DNR confirmed that there are no wetlands. We can deal with some wetlands, but just not a lot. We need to be aware of, where our solar project would be in relation to a wetland. And then the other criteria is making sure that our steel piles that are driven into the ground, since this is a ground mounted project, will be able to go to about at least 8 feet. And our engineers design the proper depth of those steel piles based on the exact soil type. Next slide.
Can I go off script?
Oh, yeah, of course.
I was just going to add to that a little bit. Yeah, you got to have the right substation. When I came and made some public comments previously to this committee, you just can't put it at any substation. You have to put it at a substation that has enough consumer members to take the power from the solar array, because we don't want it all going back up onto the high voltage transmission system. You want it staying locally within that substation area. So not every substation on our system can accommodate it. So it's a real challenge to find the right substation and get the right piece of property that's flat and can accommodate it. So there was just a lot of discussion we had in the past on that. And I just want to clarify, you just can't pick any piece of property in any place in the county that you think would be suitable for this, because the electric infrastructure has to be there. Not only the substations, but the lines in both Georgetown and this one, both the substation lines are right there. So it's just perfect.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I get contacted sometimes by landowners that are interested in doing this, and the stars really have to align for a project like this to work, because most of the time a landowner that reaches out doesn't have that existing electrical infrastructure near them to be able to make a solar project work. So here's just another picture of the Georgetown solar project. As Heather already identified. I don't think we need to say too much more about that. It's very similar to this one. This is a 2 megawatt project and the proposed Luck project is 2.5 megawatts, so just slightly larger. Next slide. So the components of these projects, of course, are solar panels themselves. One of the differences in technology is that we use what's called bifacial panels. So there's a panel over here that we have that's a small panel. And that's what panels used to look like in terms of the backside. But now this is the backside pictured here. So it looks exactly like the front. It's glass on the front and the back. And what that means is that energy can actually be absorbed from both sides. So that's helped make these projects more economical because it's increased production of these projects. So especially in the winter months when there's a reflection off of the snow, that helps increase production. But there's actually reflection off of the ground throughout the year that does help increase production. Single axis tracking. So the other piece of technology that's changed is this aspect that instead of panels being fixed in a southerly direction, these panels are actually rotating throughout the day, east to west. So they're capturing more energy production again that way. So those two things that have increased the production about in the realm of 20 to 25%. So again, just making these projects more economical. So you can see here the steel piles that I was talking about being driven into the ground. They're usually 8 to 10 feet in the ground, and then their reveal height above ground is 5 feet. And then there's this steel torque tube that runs along top of those piles, and that's what the panels are mounted to. And there's a motor and a drive shaft that rotate those through east to west throughout the day. At their highest tilt, it's about 8 feet. Next slide. A lot of people ask me if these projects need to be fenced, and per National Electric Code, they do. This is the type of fencing that we use. No chain link or barbed wire. It's just a wooden or steel post and something that you might see kind of around an orchard. They're 8 feet high. In design. Next slide. So other important components of solar projects include inverters and transformers. So inverters, solar panels produce direct current, and we use alternating current in our homes and businesses. So the inverter just takes that power and converts it. Those are also placed on the steel piles and that are driven into the ground. And then transformers are something that are found all over our communities. These big ones like this are found at perhaps outside of this building. Any large load, school, hospital, has a transformer like that. And that's just stepping up or stepping down voltage to match the voltage that is being served. In this case, this transformer is going to step up the voltage of the solar project to match the existing distribution lines that are out, that are connected to that substation. And that is mounted on a 10-foot by 10-foot cement pad. That's the only cement that is used in the project. Next slide. And then another important component of the solar project is our permanent vegetation. So we plant the area within or around the project with a pollinator prairie. We either have that mechanically mowed or mowed by sheep. So we do some sheep grazing. In this instance, the landowner that we're working with, Larry, has expressed some interest that he might want to graze the project with sheep. He has some sheep farming experience, so he might want to do that. We haven't decided that for sure. The other times when we do have sheep, we are often working with a grazer outside, or that's located in Minnesota, and that's his entire business. He's a solar grazer, so he actually takes sheep around to different projects to help keep that vegetation in place. And he will be visiting, that grazer will be visiting the project in Georgetown. So they do like a mob grazing for, they'll be there for a week or two. Next slide. So pollinators are important in our farmland. They help contribute to, increase in soybeans and fruits and vegetables, and even pasture plants like clover and alfalfa do require insect pollinators for a successful seed set. Next slide. So this is a layout of the proposed project. As Logan had identified, the substation is in the corner there, and we are gonna tuck the project around that. And it will be on about 13 acres. It's 2.5 megawatts, which is about enough to power 635 households. And the land around it will either continue to be farmed or whatever Larry wants to do with it. But we will only be taking 13 acres of that.
Do you own the substation property? Or is that leased also?
Dairyland Power owns.
Dairyland Power owns the substation land.
In our case, they own our substations, they own the property.
Okay.
So I just wanted to finish up with why we're pursuing this opportunity. So solar is not the solution to all our energy problems. It's part of the solution. And it's just really getting more complex in the industry. I've been in this industry now for 32 years. And it's just getting more complex with rooftop solar. There's just sources of energy coming from all different directions, and what everybody wants is to keep the lights on. And we think this is one piece of that puzzle. I'm not, I don't want to scare anyone, and this is why we're doing it, but just one factor that never gets talked about is it is just one piece of generation. When it's sunny out, it's intermittent generation. Wind and solar are both intermittent generation sources out, but there's just more and more concern about, as Heather talked about, as you retire these coal plants or retire these natural gas plants, that where is the power going to come from? And this is just, again, one piece of it that we can have locally. If the call comes that, well, we're in some emergency crisis where the generation doesn't match the amount of demand for that generation, if we have to reduce power, this project satisfies some of our load, then we don't have to reduce as much power. So it's helping the grid keep the power on when it's sunny. So I'm not gonna, if that call came 2 days ago when it rained all day, it's not gonna help us. But if it came yesterday, it was, Georgetown was producing, near 100% yesterday. So it's not a solution to everything, but it is one piece of the puzzle. We went into this project with 14 other cooperatives, and collectively, I think it's like 62 megawatts worth of projects. And by doing that and partnering with One Energy, there was efficiencies in contractors, efficiencies in ordering material by buying higher volume orders. So it's a good example of cooperation among cooperatives. So that was another benefit we saw. Heather talked about the financial hedge on our power costs. And again, this is just a tiny portion of our power cost. A lot of that still comes from Dairyland. But this is a project that all this power stays locally. Well, 90% of this power stays locally, a little bit on lightly loaded times. If it's sunny out, it will go up to the transmission system, but the bulk of it does stay local. And that's why we're here today, because it's just a way to continue to benefit our members. It's a carbon-free source of power. And One Energy has been a good partner when we went into this. We did a lot of research with some other cooperatives that had worked with One Energy. References came back good. We got one buying group together when we did our Georgetown project. And we came back, that ended up being a successful project for both One Energy and the cooperatives involved in that. And then we came back with this other tranche of projects with, instead of 7 cooperatives, we went up to 14 cooperatives this time and got some bigger discounts and the buying leverage. So they've been a good partner to work with. And yeah, we're looking forward to continue to work with them on our projects. So thank you. Slides.
Thank you, Steve. So yes, we really enjoy working with the cooperatives like Polk and our interest is to continue to work in our state here and develop long-term partnerships. When town had their ribbon cutting, a few of us from One Energy came to help give tours, emergency responder training, and that's the kind of thing that we want to continue to be able to do. So we like to give educational opportunities for student groups. There's a lot of times the science teachers that are interested in bringing their students out. We did that recently in Mauston, where we did a project for Oakdale Electric Cooperative. Different student groups came out. We gave them a tour so they could get a hands-on view of the project. And it is a growing workforce that is, building these projects. So we support workforce development through Midwest Renewable Energy Association and, like to help get kids thinking about this as a potential career choice for them. And I think that's it. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have now.
He's made, say you want to add it on to this. Is there a way that you could add another 10 acres on it or something at one point or not? Say to the east on this one, I'm looking at that because that's still open ground. I mean, would you ever do that? Would you ever add on?
Physically, I suppose we could. It would be more of a challenge because more of that energy would not be consumed locally, and at certain more times of the year, there would be going back up onto the transmission.
So it's made, okay, so that's
We could.
that's how you size it.
We're sizing it to our load on that substation.
Okay.
And that's why, we have some smaller substations out in Eureka, and, that substation could not handle an array of this size.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the cost effectiveness, if it gets where it's pushing too much onto the transmission lines, loses its value for the cooperative. So
Just have to upgrade the other stuff.
Costs come in, additional study comes in.
Okay. Now the trees to the south, are they gonna get too high that you have to trim back or not? Or are you far enough away for that
yeah, so
light in the winter?
do we want to pull up that layout so we can show that? Sorry. So there is a small outcrop of those trees, about 0.2 acres, which the landowner has said that he would like to be removed so that we can make an efficient use of his land and not work around that. So that's this area right here. But our engineers have designed it to be set back from this other section to
Far
not
enough.
be worried about any shading concerns there.
And now just for setbacks, you were how far from isn't the Trade River to the south?
Yeah,
Was there a setback there?
we talked with Logan about that to make sure we were far enough away from that and not subject to the shoreline zoning, and we were.
So it's over 300 feet. Okay.
Yep.
How about, now you're gonna disturb, I see the square footage, so you're over an acre, so you have to come to the county, Eric, don't they?
If it's over an acre, stormwater and erosion control plans with Wisconsin DNR.
Yes, and then,
Yeah, okay.
I believe you have one here too, right,
Then you
with Georgetown?
Okay,
Yep. Yep, so stormwater and erosion control plans, both to the DNR and to Polk County.
sure. I did go through some of the soil stuff and it says only 20 inches to groundwater. My goodness, is there any holes been dug out there to check?
We have,
You have just the soil, but that's
yeah,
pretty general.
we have a full geotechnical analysis on order. And we'll
Okay.
authorize them after we find out how things go here.
Sure,
It's an extensive geotechnical analysis that is done. They do boring samples and then they do pile load testing as well. And that is all done so that our engineers can really fully understand what the soil type is and then design those steel piles appropriately, what length they need to be driven in, what width they should be, how much galvanization needs to happen on the steel piles for corrosivity. So a lot of studying
Yeah,
we invest a lot into
yeah,
that.
because the soil, it's pretty general and it's a depth to water table 24 to 35 inches. Well, it'd be hard to work in that area then, even.
Yeah, so we do a much more thorough analysis on site versus just that desktop analysis. It's an expensive investment for us, so we like to get further along in the permit process.
Twin City testing, or do you have your own come up from Madison?
We work with a contractor called, we've worked with different contractors, Braun, Terracon, ANS Geo is gonna be the contractor that is doing this
Okay.
for us. Yep.
all the other practices. So then the decommissioning, is there now someplace that will take the panels? What are-
Yeah,
What's
so-
their life? Like,
So the warranty on solar panels is 30 years, and that's the design of this project is then 30 years with the lease agreement with the landowner and a purchase agreement with the power for Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative.
okay,
We do commit to removing everything at the end of the project's life. And there are an increasing number of solar panel recycling facilities. We've worked before, we haven't decommissioned any of our projects yet. They haven't reached 30 years, but we do have panels that sometimes get damaged in shipping. Sometimes a forklift,
storms.
yeah, well, we haven't had any storm damage, but the forklift takes off a pallet from the truck and, accidentally damages a panel. So we do have to recycle some panels already, and we've worked with the retrofit companies out of Minnesota to do so. And then we also just started working with a company out of they have an office in Chicago. They're based out of Houston, I never can pronounce this correctly, Ontality. And they do solar panel recycling.
So they still don't have any solar panel recycling in Wisconsin then?
No, mm-mm.
And what about, because we were always told from that one, that's not by you, that is 20 years is the average lifespan of a solar panel.
Yeah, that has increased. So warranties used to be 20, 25 years, and now pretty standard is a 30-year warranty.
Okay.
Yep.
And all the panels are still manufactured in China or
So
other countries?
yeah, the domestic manufacturing is definitely increasing. There's actually quite a few facilities being built right now, and we expect that will be at the production levels where we will be able to procure the number of panels, and we need to buy what's called tier 1 modules. We're not quite there yet. The panels that we've used before, we've used some Canadian Solar, we've used some called VSUN, which are from Vietnam, and then ZN Shine panels as well. And those are from Taiwan.
But China does them all. China owns them all still. Who finances all this? Where do you get your money to build these? Who pays to have these built? Where does money come from?
Yeah. So in the past, we have worked with investment firms that, invest in these projects and then become partners in them long term. We also are going to be looking at securing a loan through rural utility services that the cooperatives are eligible for. So that will help with a low interest loan that helps with the pricing here. We also partner with banks for construction loan financing. The big investment is upfront constructing these projects, right? So that's how we've.
And is some of that still government grants or?
The construction, we have no grants. We have a low interest loan and then partially forgivable loan, but no grants for this.
Didn't One Energy just get a pretty good sizable grant from the Biden administration? I thought I had read something that was part of a $10 million package, and One Energy was all happy to have received part of that for one of their builds in Wisconsin.
So I'm not familiar with a grant. There are other divisions of our company on the east and west coast, and they have applied for a DOE grant. What we received was funding through the Rural Utility Service. That is a low interest loan, partially forgivable loan.
I must have read about it was the DOE. I remember it was Department of Energy stuff, so that was maybe out. So who does own then the actual panels? Who owns it?
The panels and then the
site, because you're
Yeah.
leasing the land from the land.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Polk Burnett is coordinating the energy, but who actually owns who's responsible for like the damage, replacement in the long
Yep.
term? And I mean, even the decommissioning. And I know you say it here like, oh, we have this plan, but
Yeah.
but who is it?
So when our Georgetown project, we partnered with a company called Greenbacker, and they are the long-term owner of that project. We are their vegetation maintenance contractor, and the company called ACT is their O&M provider. In this group of projects, One Energy is looking to be the long-term owner of the project.
because but your paperwork also says Stag Moose Solar,
Oh,
which is a subsidiary
Sorry.
that was formed in
So,
January of this
yeah,
year.
let me explain that. That's confusing and it's a weird name. So we had, as Steve has said, we have worked with the rural electric cooperatives that are part of Dairyland for a few different portfolios of projects. So in 2021, we built 8 projects, some in Minnesota and Wisconsin. That was for My Energy, Riverland, and Jackson Electric. And those were called because it's a portfolio, as Steve said, it's this group of projects, those were called the Mastodon portfolio. And within each one of those projects, an LLC is formed. And typically those LLCs are then able to be partnered with a long-term financing partner individually like that. Our second group of projects was called our Smilodon portfolio, which is actually, Smilodon is a saber-toothed tiger. So we just kept going along with that naming convention and we called it Stag Moose Solar LLC. Now, because of the rural utility service loan that we have, all of the projects are under this one LLC. So Georgetown Solar had an LLC formed called Polk Burnett Solar LLC, or I think it was called Polk Burnett I don't know.
Unrelated to us.
Yeah. But it was just an LLC that then is for that particular project. All of these LLCs are wholly owned by One Energy Development LLC. And then if we partner with somebody long-term on the financing, then they become the owner of that LLC, if that makes sense. And
I'm just a little curious as far as why it's so cumbersome. I mean, and even like your registered agent is listed as Co-Energy Global. You know, as far as so what I'm hearing, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, I'm hearing that you come in, you help build this stuff, but then it just kind of gets divvied out or sold off. And as part of looking at long-term, like they were talking about decommissioning and where this money comes, was like, all of a sudden, well, this LLC has now gone away.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, oh, we've got $500,000 worth of stuff that needs to be decommissioned. And oh, there's no company here that owns it anymore and not my problem. And then all of a sudden it goes back to tax claim or for deed. And then before the county can even sell it, they have to clean up this mess.
Yeah.
That's why all of a sudden I see all these names and I'm like, I understand business a certain amount, but I do get a little, I'm curious about why all these LLCs and, oh, I do this and then I move on. And then who really gets left with this long term? Because we are in the infancy really of a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, those are really good questions. And so let me try to assure you that the LLC is formed so that the everything under that LLC then can be under the owner that is the long-term owner. And like I said, for this group of projects, that has been a long-term goal for One Energy, is to have the LLC remain with One Energy Development. In the previous projects that we've done, the LLCs have been transferred to the partner that we work with. And that has been Greenbacker Investment. And so everything under that LLC, the lease, the power purchase agreement, everything that we commit to within those agreements. So decommissioning, making sure we commit in the power purchase agreement to provide a minimum amount of power every year. Otherwise, there's damages that can be incurred. So everything under that LLC, the LLC doesn't go away. It's that all those responsibilities are absorbed by whoever is the long-term owner. Does that make sense?
It does. It's just a little concerning. I
If
mean,
you can follow the path.
Well,
who
right, as far as,
elected
because
Merle.
LLCs can also be dissolved. And they can also go, I mean, it'd be different if Polk Burnett had their LLC and we as a company in this community we're investing, we're doing this because this is energy. And I understand Polk Burnett needs the energy and we need the energy. I understand that. Again, I just look down at, I know there's a lot of green energy, like this is great, let's go. And I also know there gets to be opportunists out there that say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to make money. And then all of a sudden, well, we're rolling this off here and rolling this off here. And then the problems down the road are somebody else's. Where if it was actually literally Polk Burnett that owned this, then they're here. They're not going away as easily. So that's my whole concern is when we decommissioning all this stuff is that who is this really? And when you start looking at, oh, you're owned by this and principal offices is out of Seattle, Washington and all these different places. Like I said, who really owns it? But so right now, at the end of the day, right now, you don't even know for sure who's going to own this once this is up and going.
So our company is working very hard to make sure that we can, with the opportunity with the Rural Utility Services loan, it presents a unique opportunity for us to be able to be the long-term owner of this.
Okay.
And that has been our goal since the start.
Of this specific project versus.
It's been our goal since the start of our company that we can be the long-term owner of projects and not just sell them off to a different partner.
But it didn't work for the Georgetown project?
That had different, it didn't have that low interest rural utility service loan. So it was a bigger amount of capital for our company to be able to invest in, and that.
Okay.
Our maturity just wasn't there yet to be able to do that. But Greenbacker has been a partner with us for a number of projects and is a good partner. And we do remain involved in the projects. Landowners, I'm still their point of contact. If they have any questions, they contact me and I reach out to Greenbacker. Same with the cooperative. If they have questions, they contact us and we can connect to Greenbacker. And same with the lease agreement and the power purchase agreement. Those commitments don't go away. And we are officially the vegetation management contractor for the projects long-term as well. But those are good questions. I'm not saying that they're not. It is, these projects have a lot of capital investment and, right? And so it's, we're working towards a way that we can be doing that all of ourselves and working just with a construction loan, and that's all that we have. And we're really hoping this is the opportunity for us to be able to do that. Yeah, but the LLCs don't go away. All of those responsibilities are part of whoever takes over that LLC, and there's built in to the lease agreement, for example, that, if there was any kind of something that happened to whoever owned that LLC, that financing would come in to take over and be able to keep that going. Because really, the only way that these projects are going to make money is to fulfill our commitment to the electric cooperatives by selling them the power. So if the project isn't running appropriately, there's a huge amount of incentive to make sure that it is, because that's how these investments recoup their costs, through those long-term power purchase agreements with the utilities.
So here, I'm gonna ask Malia, can we put a condition in that if it changes ownership that we are notified?
Absolutely.
Because because we're worried about the decommission, and if it's on the fourth LLC, we would have a condition that every time that's sold,
Yep,
that we know that and that they know the conditions
yep,
of the lease,
yep,
for decommissioning and all of that.
absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
so that's something we might have to think of, a condition then that we protect ourselves that way.
Because the names change.
Yeah.
And the companies change.
And then at the very end, if there's one, boom, if it ever changes, that they know, oh, here's the conditions, you have to
Yep.
do this.
Yep. And whenever we do work with partners on projects, I mean, some of our projects are sold directly to a utility. Investor-owned utilities don't enter into power purchase agreements with us. They enter into a direct build transfer agreement with us if we're working with, like, let's say Excel. And so that type of situation, the utility takes over all of those responsibilities, the permit conditions, the lease agreement,
Okay.
everything that is under that LLC is.
So that it doesn't get lost in that process is what
Yep,
we're worried
yep.
about, is what we're.
So we hand off all those permit conditions to whoever is the long-term owner. And like I said, in this situation, we want to be those people that
Okay.
are doing that.
Okay,
There's something in the ordinance already about that, Kim?
I think there was, I just want to make sure that it was publicly said that,
Since I looked at the ordinance,
Yeah.
but I thought there was something
but
about.
I mean, to keep the conditions not crazy in anything, to keep the conditions somewhat uniform for everybody too.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? For now.
I'd just like to ask you one more
Yep.
question. Because I don't understand power distribution, but you said, what was it, 260 homes?
600.
600. Okay, what's the radius of that approximately? Or
I think they just take the total energy put out by that and then divide by an average use per consumer for home. So, you know, if you, I think the Georgetown number, it said 400 and some, and this one said 600 and some, and we've increased it by 500 kilowatts. So there's just different assumptions on,
The production.
that substation doesn't necessarily just feed the 600 homes in a circle around it.
no, the electrons, they go where they're needed. So they could go all the way out to the end of the line if the demand is really low on the substation and it's a sunny day out in April or May, when you don't have a lot of, you know, influx and into the cabins and stuff like that. I mean, that'll be providing all the service of everyone on that substation. So,
It'd go all the way to Sterling, wouldn't
well, I think Sterling's off and on. It goes all the way almost up to Siren and
Yeah.
it? Do it over there.
it'll go everywhere. And like I said, like 90% of the time, it's all staying on luck, and just certain times of the year where there's just low demand and sunny out, and there's just more generation than demand for that generation, then it just goes up on the transmission system and goes to the next substation over where it's needed. So
We identify the number of homes just as a way to kind of visualize a little bit easier how many kilowatts are or megawatts are, because it's not super clear what, you know, when you talk about million kilowatts, well, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Is there anybody here else to speak on this? Okay. How lucky could you get?
Yeah.
Adam didn't get up here.
He was afraid of, he looked.
Just crossing my fingers.
Oh, that's why you were nervous, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, Logan, are you ready to,
Yeah.
give us what you
Thank
think?
you very much.
Thank you. Because I guess we didn't hit the endangered species stuff, but that's all right. We don't have to get through all these stands. Let's get through and,
Yeah, I was trying to find where it talks about the older transfer ship.
Well, it does have in there that annually they have to update,
Yeah.
so.
did we change that to every 2 years? So what's paperwork? Do you
I
remember in the
thought-
Georgetown one? Did we go biannual?
I think it's still
Update.
annual.
I think there was a change from monthly to semi-annual.
There we were.
There.
I think it was monthly and we
Yeah.
went to annual. Okay,
Annual or semi-annual.
or semi-annual, yeah. Okay,
You wanted something ridiculous, we reined you in.
Yeah.
no, I don't think it was me.
No.
I think
said
that
that
was,
out loud.
that was Clam Falls League.
That was back in,
It was.
yes, it was, Brad.
It was. All right,
So these were the findings that I touched on earlier, as far as the request for this conditional use. The request concerns a 38.25 acre parcel in the town of Luck. The purpose of this conditional use permit application is to construct a 2.5 megawatt ground mount solar farm. A small scale energy system is a conditional use under chapter 42, article 6 of the Polk County Code of Ordinances. The town of Luck had no comments regarding the project. The application indicates the system would be approximately 13 acres in size. The property appears to have previously been used as open pasture or farmland. The current use is grassland. DNR confirmed that there are no wetlands within the proposed project area via wetland delineation completed July 18th of this year. Access to the property is off 280th Avenue, which is a town road. The property currently does not have a legal driveway access, but there is one proposed. The applicant submitted proper notice to all landowners within a half mile of the planned host property. There are no active land use permits or known plans on the surrounding properties indicating plans to build a structure creating impermissible interference. And the project is projected to supply electricity to 635 households. County provided a proper Class 2 legal notice prior to this hearing, did not receive any public comments on this request. So as far as section 42-803 of our ordinance, it does state that the county shall grant a conditional use permit if the agency determines that the granting of a permit will not unreasonably interfere with the orderly land use and development plans of the town or county. No person has demonstrated that she or he has present plans to build a structure that would create impermissible interference by showing that she or he has applied for a building permit prior to receipt of a notice from the owner or has expended at least $500 on planning or designing such a structure or by submitting any other credible evidence that she or he has made substantial progress towards planning and or constructing a structure that would create an impermissible interference. 3, the benefits to the applicant and the public will exceed any burdens. And 4, the county may grant a permit subject to any condition or exemption the county deems necessary to minimize the possibility that the future development of nearby property will create an impermissible interference or to minimize any other burden on any person affected by granting the permit. Such conditions or exemptions may include, but are not limited to, restrictions on the location of the solar collector or wind energy system and requirements for the compensation of persons affected by the granting of the permit. So I have some conditions that I started with. A lot of it is in our ordinance. So I feel like most of the conditions are acknowledged there, but I did have, because there is no driveway, that they must install a new driveway, which must be approved by the town of Luck before starting to operate. And that the applicant shall pay the fee for stormwater plan review completed by Polk County Land and Water Resources Department, as we touched on. The other, I put the general permit holder must obtain all proper licensing and the permit holder must comply with all applicable requirements listed in section 42, article 6, renewable energy systems at the time of approval. And I just had on here, throwing it out there as far as the compensation requirements for people affected by the granting of the permit. It seems like those dwellings are, at least the current dwellings are plenty far away. I mean, if those woods aren't going to affect it, I don't think those dwellings would on the other side of the road. Or if, I guess I don't know exactly the distance of that. If someone wanted to put up a accessory building, towards the road, I don't think if that would affect that.
Yeah. The north especially not a concern,
Okay.
and general rule of thumb is, we want to be, as high as something, we want to be that far away. So if it's a 20-foot building, we'd want to be 20 feet away. And so with the setbacks that we already exist between the road and the, transmission line easement there shouldn't be anything unless they build a really tall building.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're doing a skyscraper out there though.
So in that, we also have who they have to notify if anything happens.
Yeah. So,
Training partners in here too.
If you look at section 42-793 of the ordinance, it really delineates a lot of the questions and concerns.
Yep.
And the very first one is the transfer of ownership needing
So that's in
to,
there, okay.
right, and that has to happen with the continued financial assurance of the new owner before the change in ownership happens. So
Okay,
the current ordinance as it's written requires them to inform the county prior to that.
prior to that, okay. So most of the things are pretty covered. In your deal, we should put approximately 635, so they're not
Yeah.
stuck to that. Somebody be out counting houses and one short. Approximately, okay. We didn't touch, what is it zoned? Does it have to be rezoned? Is it zoning of the land proper?
nope. Yep. The zoning is,
Ag 10 or something or what?
it's RA5 and that's,
It's RA5, okay.
and as far as the zoning districts, believe they're not, they're not underneath each zoning district. I believe everything just falls underneath the renewable energy section of it, but I'm not positive.
But it's, okay. Doesn't have to be rezoned.
Doesn't require.
No, it doesn't require rezoning. Okay, so that would have just been another, something they would add a jump. So pretty much all the other stuff is in there. So then, like we said on that final map, put all the setbacks in numbers instead of like 0.1. It would have the actual number because all our setbacks are 300 feet and whatever. I seen 0.1 and 0.5 mile away. I'd like to see the actual footage on some of those. That, just, we have a 63 off the center line and we have 300 feet from the streams. I mean, so we should do numbers instead of 1/10 of a mile or 1/8 of a mile.
On this, it's got the numbers.
It had some and some, but then in the verbiage, it had
Yeah,
0.1 and
oh,
stuff.
okay.
Cause it had like 415 on
Yeah.
from the street to the south. Okay. What?
You get right down to the very last count.
So we'll strike E then.
I think so.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Because then all the other ones on D should pretty much cover us.
Yeah.
I mean, that are in there that we're worried about anything decommissioning and all that.
Decommissioning is covered specifically as far as like having a bond for it or showing financial ability or.
Yep. And like when Malia said that, yeah, before they can sell it, they have to have that in place. Okay.
Yeah, they must provide bond, deposit, escrow account, revocable letter of credit, or some combination of these financial assurances. So it's in 42-801.
And all the other stuff will be done. So we don't have to review this again because the storm will be done by your department then. Okay. Have to review it again, do we then?
Nope.
Nope, we wouldn't have to. We would just have updates on when they start and stuff, so we could tell the people. And then, do we have it that they do the township too of luck? For notification numbers? I mean, some of the ones you didn't have, the county, you should notify the township, the county, the state, all that for any spills or anything.
It's delineated.
Does it say all
County
those?
Emergency Management, Polk County Sheriff's Department, clerk for any town,
Any town that
in
they,
which, yep,
okay,
for any village, yes. Any fire, police, first responder identified by the county's emergency management director. So this ordinance kind of similar to other conditional uses, a lot of the things that you're already talking about were put right into the ordinance so that you wouldn't have to make sure and ask.
sure that we didn't
But I
forget them.
think they're all very good questions, but
Okay,
it was drafted in such a way to
that it would cover that.
avail a lot.
And if we missed one, it would still be there. Okay,
They have to comply with all of the conditions as they're listed in the ordinance, and then any that you would add that you would deem necessary. So these conditions, maybe in the future, if we have another one of these, we can already list, these are the conditions that already apply.
Yeah.
So that you're only looking outside of that, and, you're not gonna have these very often, so that's.
and they would have those questions answered in your. book
What's the
that you give us.
estimated go live time for this?
Yes, so we, that portfolio of projects that Steve and Heather talked about, we have a group that we're hoping to build next year.
Okay.
So our construction timeline usually kicks off as soon as we can in the spring, road bands are lifted, and should wrap up in the fall and be online by the end of next year.
All right. Any other questions? All right, we should be good then. So we only added those 4 regular ones, which might be in there anyway.
4.
So,
Because he's taking one out.
yeah, I took E off.
Yeah.
And then he went back and findings of fact and
Yeah.
approximately 635.
Yeah.
Just, okay. All right. So I will entertain a motion then, or we can close it public hearing first, I guess. Well, we've spoken 11:12, if that clock is right,
11:13 according to mine.
of course. I will entertain a motion for or against, or whatever you're thinking.
I'll make a motion to grant this conditional use permit to Larry Bright.
Okay. Is there a second?
I can second it.
Seconded from Tracy. Any more discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye. Opposed? It passes. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
For bringing humor to it like this. I've never seen a group of public officials have more fun together.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
That would be us.
yeah. Goodness gracious. Yours is half as much. I hope so too. Yeah.
We do have Kim here.
That's what's scary. He's gonna stay for yours.
That's true. Just, you want me just to read in
He's gonna stay for yours.
and have you come up? Explain.
Oh.
Lucy, you got some split?
The zoning map show up for the town.
Oh, that's good. I got one.
Well, I've looked at it. I got it printed. I just didn't bring it. Yeah.
All right, let's do the township here. Let's read this one in.
Yep.
At the last public hearing, the town of Apple River requests approval of the following town zoning ordinance, official zoning map, and the comprehensive plan pursuant to Wisconsin statute 60.6. I'm gonna have Malia just give a brief update on this section of that.
Okay,
So under Wisconsin statute 60.62, which is right in the public notice and in the agenda, it allows for towns to adopt village powers. The town of Apple River had previously already adopted village powers. So this isn't how some have framed it and opting out of county zoning. It's simply deciding to engage in those village powers they've already decided to adopt. Our office worked with zoning, and we also worked with Rebecca Roker from Atolis Law to review the process of getting it here. And so I think process-wise, everything has been appropriate. The town held their public hearing. They had, I believe, they also had, wasn't it at the organizational meeting? So all of the previous steps that need to happen, happened. And so that's why it's here. Anytime a town changes zoning, and you've seen these come through, usually it's on our consent agenda because it's moving, shifting one piece here, one piece there. While there are some arguments to be made about certain provisions within the proposed ordinance, the town would be the one enforcing this ordinance. So it wouldn't be our zoning office enforcing the ordinance itself. As far as some of the things that need to be cleaned up, some of the labels in the ordinance for zoning districts don't match the way they're labeled in the map. But again, this is just a procedural thing for the town to be able to engage in their own village powers and do their own zoning. Our shoreline ordinance, which covers a good part of the town, I would say around at least half, still applies as far as it relates to setbacks and distances and all of that kind of stuff. So we would still have a hand in any of those shoreland projects, but the uses would be governed both within the shoreland and outside of the shoreland by the town zoning ordinance, and they would be the one enforcing that zoning ordinance. I think that we have Mr. Jarko here who can speak to what has happened at the town. And then I believe Logan has a couple of things he would like to point out, but that I believe the request is to have this then go to the full county board so that they can allow the town to exercise their own powers. Keep in mind, this would be a legislative decision. So you're not necessarily saying, we agree with every provision within this town ordinance, or we agree every provision is absolutely enforceable. This is more of a legislative act where you're saying we're allowing that local control.
All right.
I won't reiterate what I said last week, or last month, that is. The town did go through a pretty extensive process. It was about a year-long process to get to this point. I'm not on the town board, I'm on the plan commission, but they asked me to help through this process because of my experience in zoning. I think that process was good and yielded a good ordinance. I have heard from a variety of people since this has been a month now about, CAFOs and boathouses and mobile home issues. And, there's a variety of things that people can pick nits about in any ordinance. There's a variety of ways that somebody could say, well, I don't think that that's enforceable. Then you may be right. What I've said is we've been kind of stuck here at the county for about 3 months. What we'd like to do is get it through the county so it can go back to the town board and address those 3 or 4 issues that have come up. And I'm sure there'll be other issues that come up. I worked with Sharon for a very long time when she was on the town of St. Croix Falls board. I think Sharon will tell you that it is every couple of months, every few months, that you're looking at the ordinance and making some tweaks, and you guys see that on your agenda and your consent agenda. And I would fully expect that would happen here, that there will be some tweaks and changes to get this to the place where everybody's comfortable with it. So I hope that this committee will view the process that the town went through to get to this point, and understand that it met all of the statutory requirements, would then allow the town to work through whatever minor issues there may be to tweak the ordinance in a way that makes the town board members happy and the townsfolk happy. So Kerry Bryant, who is the town chairman, was on the Zoom for quite a long time. He just sent me a text that he had to pop off to go to work. So thanks, Polk Burnett, for taking all that time and making me have to once again do the presentation instead of the town chairman. So I'd take any questions.
When we pass this, what are you gonna wait to the year date, or what? When are you gonna implement?
Our hope is that this will go on the agenda for the August county board meeting. Is there an August board meeting?
Yeah.
We are set. The town is set. So it would be able, it's got the zoning administrator in place. It's gone through all of its process. So, if you guys at the county level, once you guys adopt it, and you can put a date on, I don't care what date you put on there. You can put on September 1st, September 15th, October 1st. It doesn't matter to me or the town board what the effective date is. They're going to be ready to go.
Does it say like 30 days after it's?
I don't know if you have a resolution that says that. I think it's probably up to you guys to decide when yours would end and ours would go into place. But I think that, I hate to speak for the town board members, but I think they're anxious to move this forward so as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I just wondered if there was something, once it's approved, is there a 30 or 60-day another review again or something stupid? Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know that the town has their ordinance review season the way the county has its ordinance review season, but I do think it would be something where, those growing pains and then work through them, and they're gonna have to, so.
And we saw that with the town of St. Croix. We've modified the zoning ordinance over the years. And of course, they're dealing with a lot more commercial than we see here. This is almost all ag. Town of St. Croix's got that Highway 8 corridor, so that adds a whole level of complexity to it. They won't be experiencing so much, but it's worked out well. We had some bumps along the way when some of the changes at the county on zoning happened a few years ago, and we were able to work with the county from the town perspective and get those worked through. You helped with that process, Adam, and we got that resolved, and that was mostly around shoreline stuff. But other than that,
We're still gonna have a hand in meeting the county, or still gonna have a hand in the shoreland.
Yep.
And,
Absolutely.
we can't be. There might be some differences in what is allowed in the town's ordinance versus what is prohibited, let's say by NR 115, for example.
Yep.
And so the property owner is gonna have to comply with the most restrictive. when we're talking about,
Yeah.
those things within the shoreline.
And communication is important too, making sure you're communicating to the homeowners or whoever you're working with on zoning issues, so they understand that you still need to talk to the county about some things and you go through the town for the bulk of it, but making sure that people understand and are clear of that.
So then the only other question is, now, are you gonna have a really good map to go with this?
We will. My hope is that now,
Did you find all the commercial that you didn't miss a junkyard or something?
my hope is that now that, well, once we're through the process, that we can take this map, which was done by the Staple and Osceola, we can feed it into the Land and Information Department and work with them so that I think they usually have a map, even for the town of St. Croix Falls, that they keep updated, if I understand that right. So
Yeah.
I would fully expect that we work collaboratively.
That we don't fall into some of that rezoning of, like
Yep.
St. Croix Falls did, that
Yep.
assume that they were
Yep.
whatever, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I had some concerns. I've talked, but in listening to Malia so I just had some concerns that their ordinance, there was places in their ordinance that was in conflict with ATPC 51. But in listening to what you've said, it's like, I don't have a problem with the process going forward, and they'll have to, if I understood you correctly, they're gonna have to fight through that as they work through their individual ordinances. And I have talked to Adam and stuff about it. So and I understood you correctly with that then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And to your point, Supervisor Garvey, I have spoke to one of the town board members about, a few of these places, and he happens to be kind of one of the people that has been leading in this charge. And he said, yes, as soon as this gets through the county, we'll put it back on the agenda and we'll work through those 4 or 5 issues. And I never had the sense during this year-long process with the town board members that they were overly married to any particular provision. So going from 400 to 500, I don't think will be an issue. I think there was a provision that said boathouse habitation, and I don't even remember that being discussed. It might have been a typo. So, I have no belief that they will do anything but resolve those kind of issues.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, folks.
Thanks.
Okay.
So I guess a question I have is, do they come back to us to approve their ordinances like the town of St. Croix does and everything?
You're correct. Anytime there would be
Yeah.
a, change,
But
go through the same process like we're dealing with St. Croix Falls or Farmington.
but today we're not approving their ordinance, we're just approving them getting out of,
We're
or
passing it
the
along
village power.
to the county board
Okay.
for consideration. Remember with the Stour litigation, how the DNR didn't approve our master plan? They just said it met the
It met.
procedural criteria,
Proceed.
kind of like that.
Yeah,
We're,
yeah.
Again, I'm not going to give the town legal advice and tell them, I think this provision wouldn't be enforceable or that provision.
that would be up to them. That's what we're,
But,
yeah. And then-
everything can be
And they
improved.
can see what we had fights with, and they'll end up with the same battles. If it's
But remember, it's more of that legislative act of, rather than, oh, yes, we're saying that we think your ordinance is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
'Cause that's where, if there were an issue, you wouldn't want them to say, well, the county said we were good and we relied upon the county's approval. And because they approved it, we assumed it was legal. That's not.
We're just approving the fact that
The
they're going
process.
to be, yeah.
It's going to do their own.
So then
We could do that on the consent agenda, couldn't we, to save an argument? For that?
I won't be here, but
I know you won't, chicken. Yeah.
I say leave it out of the consent agenda so the meeting
Are
goes.
you gonna change your phone?
No.
You gonna change your phone number too, so that we can't call you for advice?
I have to give my county phone back tomorrow, so if you've got any urgent things. Those are last.
Got a day, you get.
All right, so Logan, what do you?
So I guess my question is, so this gets passed, their ordinance technically is not approved then? They would
Yes.
have to come back here?
Again,
So we are approving the
They
ordinance.
would solidify the town's implementation of their ordinance.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
because
so we're
We
not,
do have to approve it to that point. Because if they change it, we have to approve it. So we have to
I mean, yeah,
approve the whole thing.
You know, if the town, and it's unfortunate that the town chair had to log off, but if the town wanted to sit with Logan and Darko and highlight those things and adjust that before, you know, that's also certainly,
I don't think we can, sorry.
No.
I don't think we can do that because I think what we would like to see is if you guys could send this over to the county board approves it, then we're gonna have to have a public hearing again
Mhm.
to amend the ordinance. So that's what we will do, and we'll send the amendments back to you guys, but
Yeah.
Logan's saying the word approve, and I don't know if that's the exact word that's in the statute says approve, but I think what the statute requires is the county board to say, okay, go for it, town.
You could write.
So I don't think when you're saying we approve the ordinance, I don't think you're saying it in terms of we adopt this ordinance or we love this ordinance. You're just saying, go for it, town. Have at it.
Okay, so in a resolution, how would you write that, Malia? That we just. They got out and they're writing their,
I would ask Joe.
you better sit over here so we know you're here. You're hiding back here.
granting.
He has, 1 day to write it. That's,
Oh, good call.
Wow. Crash and
I
burn.
think the statute might use the word consent. So the county board consents to the towns, the
That
towns.
sounds more. better.
Village
Yeah.
use,
Yeah.
village powers.
And then we will almost certainly be back in October with
A change.
some changes for your consent agenda.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because now we sit for 2 hours.
But I do, I do think cleaning up the map before the August board meeting would be a good idea.
We don't.
No.
That's so, okay.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of issues with the map in reference to the ordinance itself, not having the same zoning districts and having 6 or saying 5 districts and there's 6 and not having them all on the map. So I mean, it's,
You may not have the most updated map
okay.
if you're looking at that.
Okay.
So I can sit with you guys or with you, Logan, and go through the map with you.
So I think if we do that, can we still move it forward? Even though we have different ones here, I think we can still move it forward.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we'll do a consent, not an approval, and put it on the consent agenda. How's that?
sounds good, Joe.
it's not, it wouldn't be your determination on whether it's on the consent agenda. You can forward it to the board and then the board would make that, or I guess Jay
Jay,
decide whether he puts
Jay's
it
right
on the
here.
consent agenda.
Our motions have.
So
been-
we're gonna, the motion is to move it to there and to do it.
Sure.
It would be, because we did that on the rezoning ones. We
Sure.
do that to
Yeah.
just save
We just
headaches.
Move it, yeah.
If they're worried about it, they should be at this meeting
yeah.
to keep our
Yeah.
business working. So if we make that motion,
I get there's semantics.
Mr. Luke will probably do it for us, won't you, then? Put it on the consent agenda if the motion is that way.
Absolutely.
There, see, then we're safe, thanks.
Period end.
Procedurally, we'll do it
I
that way.
second that.
Period end.
Okay. So are you good? What,
Yeah,
because if the process was correct and stuff, I think we're sitting at the right spot now to move forward.
I'm just not
To what-
clear on if they don't come back, is that ordinance, there's issues with that ordinance. But it sounds like that's not the case, so.
Well, if they try to enforce it and it isn't right, then they'll have more of, they'll be hiring Joe on the side to fix all their stuff.
Oh, they'll be hiring me for $0.
Yes.
I have every incentive to make sure it's right and they're not getting sued.
Yeah. So I think with him sitting there saying, and I think that if we get those updates, to put it, I don't think we have to send this out in the packet, do we?
No.
For
No.
the full board meeting?
I don't think it would be a problem, at least the ordinance language.
I
If
mean,
it's gonna be up,
It could be online, but I don't know if we'd have to print it out.
but it's not gonna be a public hearing. So this was the public.
This
hearing.
was the public hearing right now. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of the public hearing part. We'll close it right now. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
We'll close the public hearing.
Sit down.
And then how are we gonna move this on?
Wait, can I make, it's okay, this is how I wrote how you guys have done in the motion before, to recommend to the consent agenda of the county board, the town of Apple River's adoption of town.
Yeah, perfect.
If that motion gets made.
I would make that motion that if
I'll
if I can
second.
use her
Okay.
Shabana's language.
What she said.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if I can use
I'll
Shabana's
second
language.
it.
Shabana.
Then we have a second. Okay. How does that sound? Does that sound all right?
Thank you, Shabana.
Yeah, that should be fine.
It should be fine because we do have the chair here that'll help us with it. All right. All those in favor then say aye. Opposed? Okay. And you will do that before the full board meeting? Maybe have the.
On the map, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I will get back to the office and look to see, maybe I might have just grabbed the wrong attachment when I sent to Malia,
Sure.
because we went through a handful of iterations. Your guy, our producer, kept having changes, so.
Okay. All right. And you will have that drafted?
What?
Have you left already?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Where am I? You're on your way.
What am I drafting? What is Joe drafting?
Resolution is Joe.
No, he said you had one day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Resolution for August county board meeting.
Somebody will draft. it.
Somebody will get it done.
Let's sit to that.
Shabana? you
Council's
might have-
office will draft it.
There you go.
Is the litigation update going?
I think
The
we're
only thing
down.
left, I think.
Yep. Litigation.
We have, the work plan identified. We had a few things that we have to put on there.
I can announce some things in open session.
Or do you want to wait and do whatever else you can do at the very end? Or you want to do it?
Oh, I don't know what.
Review the work plan and then what's all we
Oh, I'm
have left.
sorry. My
Yeah.
bad. We have.
So we have the work plan, then we'll have that, then we can.
Yeah, yeah. For next meeting, I have the conservation easement, the actual action.
The purchase agreement stuff, okay.
Yep, the budget review, the department reports, the presentation of user data for the trails, and the 2025 forest work plan. Sarah's not here to confirm that all those things are on there, but
Okay.
we'll also, we'll make necessary changes to
Sure.
the agenda as it comes up.
And then from public comment, should we put that on there? From Mr. Nelson, should we just put something on there that will look at that?
Yeah, sure.
Let's,
I think she's gonna touch on that
yeah,
in full session, right?
Yes.
we'll just touch on that too. I mean, then we'll put it on there, so then it's the public will know about it.
Well, I mean. Also say it in open session. I don't know. Necessarily.
Well, let's do the close and come out, and then you can,
Sounds good.
then we'll,
But yeah, we have.
whatever announcements we can do. Okay. Okay,
Make a motion, we can close.
in the closed session,
Yes.
1985 1G.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? to
I'll
that?
second it.
And seconded by Sharon. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's just note who's in the room.
Now that we're in open session, I
Now.
move that we close, the meeting, adjourn the meeting, sorry, yes.
Close enough, right?
Let's make an announcement that nothing.
Why would he say that?
Oh, yeah.
Full session.
Not a close.
No decisions need to be made out of closed session.
Okay,
I mean, I just.
Now.
Let's go on.
Okay, now I move to adjourn the meeting.
is there a second?
Second.
Sure. All those in
Spirit's
favor,
down.
say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Now we're adjourned.
All right,
Ever.
thank you.
Yeah.